Hello everyone. So this is Shruti Oja, and in this video we are going to talk about the next part of general anatomy revision series, in which we are going to talk about the nervous system. So in this video I'm going to tell you all the important points, how to learn them, and I will focus mainly on the confusing facts and tricks to learn them very easily and in a long lasting manner. So let's start. So first of all, in nervous system, we know the main thing is neurons. So in neurons, there are four types, right? Mainly the unipolar, pseudo-uni, the bipolar and multipolar. So in multipolar, just remember that it is M, and the main example is the motor neurons. Now in unipolar, we are having the mesencephalic nucleus. Okay, mesencephalic nucleus is in our midbrain. So midbrain is only one with us. So unipolar neuron. Now pseudo-unipolar. Pseudo-unipolar is the dorsal root ganglion. So it appears like uni, but it is pseudo-unipolar. It acts like it has two. It has bi, right? Now bipolar is the ear, the eyes and the nose. So all these have two ends. One is with which they are taking the sensation, and the one end which is transmitting it to the other neurons. Next is the type of synapses. In this we are having the axon, the dendrite and the soma. The main three things which have to make the synapse and which actually interact with each other. So if we make a permutation combination kind of thing, so if I do axonic synapse, then axodendritic synapse, axosomatic synapse. Then if I do dendritoaxonic synapse, dendritosomatic synapse, and here I have all the types of synapse without any error. Next, if I see the nerves, we often confuse with what is the number of the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves, right? So if I write 1, 2, 3 and again 1, so the 12 pairs of cranial nerve and the 31 pairs of spinal nerves. You can also remember, if it is an extra fact, that South Railways are more busier than the North Railways. So I can say the S, that is South Railways, has more pairs, that is 31, if I have a MCQ. But in subjective exam, we need to know the numbers, right? Now, if I want to remember all the individual classifications, so in cervical, we just need to, if we remember that how many vertebrae are there, cervical vertebrae are 7 in number. So near to 7 it is 8, right? Now thoracic, T and 12 T. So it is 12 pairs, right? Next is lumbar and sacral are same. Since there are 5 lumbar vertebrae, we can say the 5 pairs are there. So 5, 5, same. And how much is left? Only one. Only one vertebrae is also there, right? Coccygeal one. Now, next comes oligodendrocytes and Schwann cells, which provide myelination where? CNS or PNS. You can remember by the fact that Schwann cells, Schwann is like a swan. So swans are roaming here and there, and they're outside, right? Outside. So we can say the PNS, peripheral nervous system. And oligodendrocytes will be in CNS then. Next comes white inside or outside. I mean the white matter is present inside the gray matter in brain or outside it. So we can remember that brain is inside the cranial cavity. It is inside this cranial cavity box, right? So it is insider in the white matter is insider in brain. And in spinal cord, the spinal cord is outside this box, this cranial cavity. It is not inside the cranial cavity. So I can say the white matter is outside cranial cavity, that is outsider in the spinal cord. I just simply mean that gray matter is inside or outside, or white matter is inside or outside. I hope you understood it. Next comes dermatome. We know all the spinal nerves supply a specific region or area, or we can say cutaneous area in this fact. So if I say this is a spinal nerve and I say C2, C3 and C4, right? C1, why didn't I write C1? C1, all the spinal nerves have different specific their dermatomes, right? But C1 doesn't have that specificity. Now in C2, I will say it is supplying the area above and area below. C3 area above, below, above and below. Now, if I see carefully, this area is being overlapped. And I have to show that area being overlapped. Now, this overlapping area, and specifically I say what is a dermatome? It is the cutaneous area supplied by a spinal nerve. But in points, we can also write that the dermatomes are overlapping and different spinal nerves are supplying, can be supplying the same dermatome, right? So in dermatome, I will also write about the referred pain. The concept of referred pain is like the area. If one spinal nerve is supplying this region and it is also supplying this whole arm, then that is the same dermatome. And if an injury occurs here, then that pain can also refer to the area supplied by that same spinal nerve. Next comes the typical spinal nerve, and this is the dorsal root, dorsal horn, and this is the ventral horn and the ventral root. So in dorsal root, I have the sensory part. Dorsal is sensory and ventral root is motor, right? Just remember by the fact that if I stand like in anatomical position in which my hands are in front, so this is my ventral side and my back is my dorsal side, right? So in ventral side, I am doing all the works. I don't do work like this. I do work like this. I type like this. I eat like this. So ventral is motor and dorsal is the remaining, which is sensory. Next is here is the spinal ganglion in the dorsal root. Now these will form the trunk. Now we are in the vertebral column only till now. Next comes the intervertebral foramina. And from here the trunk will come outside and divide into two, that is the dorsal and the ventral ramus. Next is, this is the lateral cutaneous branch, anterior cutaneous branch, and there will be the further branches in the here from, and it will supply the different regions, different muscles, and the sensory and the motor supply, right? The motor is from ventral and the dorsal root will supply the mainly the sensory. But I would also mention that this regions are divided into sensory and motor, but when it comes into rami, they are not sensory and motor, because I have to supply both sensory and motor components to all the like in the front of the body and in back of the body also. Next, if sympathetic ganglion point comes here, so it is a lateral horn, right? And from here, the anterior root, through the anterior root, it will go to the sympathetic ganglion, and from here, it will provide this. The cell body is here, and the end is here. So from here, it will provide it the supply, and it will next go on to next, that is the ventral, the white ramus communicans, and here it is the gray ramus communicans. So next we are having that the CTLS. So in this we are having the CTLS, which is the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and the sacral. So in how do I remember which is the sympathetic outflow and which is the parasympathetic outflow? So the craniosacral outflow is basically the parasympathetic. Now if I want to remember like the sympathy is always in our heart. It is always inside us, right? So it is inside. T and L are inside. So it is the sympathetic, and craniosacral, which is outside, it is the parasympathetic. So this was all about the nervous system. Next we will know about the difference between parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So now in this difference we are going to see it accord with a story and with a very interesting concept. So in First of all, sympathetic. It is a fight or flight response. You are worried, you need to combat the situation. So your heart rate will be fast or slow. It will be fast, right? Next, your blood vessels. For the heart rate to be fast, for your everything to be fast, the blood vessels need to constrict so that the flow is very fast. So blood vessels would constrict. Next, bronchioles. Bronchioles, you need to breathe fast. You need to have long, deep breaths and fast breathing, efficient one for to run if a dog is behind you. That means your bronchioles will dilate. Next, bronchial glands secretion would be arrested, would be reduced, because if there is more bronchial gland secretion, it will hamper your respiratory efficiency at that time. Your pupils, your eye size will, it will be enlarged, it will be dilated, because you need to see, you need to be alert, right? And here it will be constricted. Next is lacrimal glands. So in both the situations, it will be increased secretion. So vasomotor, and here it is secretomotor. Now in GIT and glands, when you are so alert and you need a fight or flight response, do you think that your body should concentrate on GIT and digestion part? No. So GIT and the glands related to it would be having reduced secretions, and contrarily here it will be having more secretion. Now sweat glands. Yes, I am very frightened. So more sweat. So pseudomotor. But here parasympathetic, no effect. Hair follicles. Hair follicles. Sometimes you must have seen those GIFs that your hairs are like standing, like they are erect. So pilomotor. But here it is no effect again. Now penis will be having ejaculation here, and here it is having the erection part. Now bladder is having it is closed. Why? Because those sphincters, all the openings are constricted here, but here it is open, because when you are very like alert and you are so frightened, that you don't want that unnecessary things should take your time. So here everything is closed and constricted. Last is salivary. The saliva is viscous here, and here the saliva is watery. So this was all about the nervous system, and if you like this video, if you like the tricks and concepts, then do like it and do save it in your library and share it with your friends, because sharing is caring.